Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into our video. We are the aerial survey crew from the EcoMap group. I'm Orla, I'm an assistant scientist.
And I'm Catherine, I'm a research assistant.
And I'm Laura, I'm a postdoctoral associate scientist.
So you may recognize some of us from our day in the life aerial survey video, and today we're back to talk to you about what we do with the data that we collect. Specifically, we're going to talk about the photo data we collect, and to start us off, Catherine is going to tell us about how to identify different species.
Yeah, so during aerial surveys, we're 1,000 feet above the water, so these animals actually look fairly small. Here's a group of humpback whales being photographed with a zoom lens, which helps us get a closer look at them. Common and Atlantic white-sided dolphins look very similar from the plane, so taking photos allows us to confirm species. Common dolphins have an hourglass-shaped coloration on their sides, while Atlantic white-sided dolphins have a white and light yellow stripe on their side.
Hey, Catherine, do you know why the white-sided dolphins are called Lagonarenchus acutus?
No, why?
Because they're the cutest.
That's a good one. And confirming ID is important because these species have some overlap in their ranges, and in recent years, their prevalence seems to be shifting a bit, especially with warming waters in the Gulf of Maine, so being able to identify them is important to help track any changes that are occurring. Minke whales are quite small in comparison to other whales that we see, and they have white patches on their flippers that are sometimes called minke mittens because it looks like they're wearing white mittens. Fin whales are the second largest species in the world. They're very long, sleek, and have a light gray chevron or V-shaped coloration on their back just behind their blowholes. They also have a white lower right jaw.
Did you know fin whales are also known as the greyhounds of the sea?
I did. They're very fast whales. Humpback whales have very long white pectoral flippers, which distinguish them from other species. Similar to a human's fingerprint, each humpback whale has a unique black and white pattern on the underside of their fluke or tail and a distinct dorsal fin. In the airplane, we have a top-down view of animals, so we typically don't see the angles needed to identify individual humpback whales. This is something usually easier done from a boat. In contrast, aerial surveys are a great way to identify individual North Atlantic right whales. Each right whale has a unique callosity pattern on their head that allows us to tell them apart. Callosities are roughened areas of skin on their head, lips, and chin, and these appear white due to the presence of light-colored cyanids or whale lice that live on callosities. Other features such as scarring and natural markings can be used to ID individuals as well. Here are some right whales that we've seen recently on our surveys. Depending on what the whales are doing, we may only get a brief look at them before they go down on a dive, so we'll write quick notes on callosities, scarring, and other features to help us tell different whales apart in the plane. For example, callosities can be continuous down the middle of their head or broken into smaller sections of callosities. Here are some of the notes that we'd write for each whale in the plane. And the Right Whale Catalog team here at the Anderson Cabot Center curates the North Atlantic Right Whale Catalog, and you can learn more about the whale identification terms and even use the Find a Whale feature to try to match these whales on your own. We'll leave the answers in the description. We may not always know who each right whale is, so after our survey, we also use the Right Whale Catalog to match our photos and identify individuals. And next, Orla will give more information on some of the whales we've identified and seen on our surveys.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. So, like Catherine said, we're able to identify individual whales, and because we're able to do that, we notice patterns of when certain animals come back to our survey area. And I'm going to talk about a few individual whales that we've seen a lot. So I'm going to start by talking about an adult male that we've seen over many years. He is catalog number 1804, named Katz. He was born in 1988. And I don't know about you guys, but I always feel a sort of kinship with whales that are the same age as me, so I like cats. So in this photo, he is in what we call a surface active group, or a SAG. It's a behavior that's often associated with mating, although not always. So in SAGs, we see a lot of rolling, a lot of splashing, and you often see whales upside down or on their sides. So sometimes in SAGs, they reveal unseen parts of their bodies that are useful for identification. So in this photo, you can see that Katz actually has a white chin. So that was in 2012, and this was southwest of Martha's Vineyard. We saw Katz again 2 years later in 2014 on the southern part of the hills, and again in 2018. So let's see what he looked like in 2018. So you can see that he has his white chin, and you can also see a scar on the right side of his body near the back. Now, I don't know when Katz got this scar. He's had it for a long time, and I don't know what it's from, but it is actually pretty useful to identify him from the plane. In 2019, we saw Katz a couple different times, first in January and then twice in March. Now, in just a year, his health had really deteriorated. Surveying and photographing whales is a critical part of documenting their health, and we submit our sightings of unhealthy, injured, or entangled whales to a team at the aquarium that works on assessing right whale health. Now, I don't personally have a background in health assessment, but I know that you do, Catherine. Can you tell us a little bit about why Katz looks unhealthy in these photos?
Yeah, so the coloration of his skin looks a lot more light gray compared to the darker gray, almost black that we see in healthy whales. And his body condition also looks a little bit worse in the more recent photos.
Well, we haven't seen Katz this year, but hopefully we'll see him again, and hopefully he'll be looking a lot healthier. So I'm going to move on to another whale that we've seen quite a bit. Catalog number 4360 is a whale of unknown age or sex. Very mysterious. You guys know that it's one of my favorite whales, but you might not know that I was among one of the first people to document it. Me and another aquarium scientist first documented this whale in 2013 in Canadian waters. So this is a whale that we've seen in our New England survey area quite a bit. In July of this year, Catherine and I saw our first right whale of the season, and I recognized him immediately because it was 4360. And I knew that we had seen this whale in 2019 as well, so I started looking at its sightings history, and we actually saw it a lot that year. So we saw it first in February in 2019, and then it came back in the summer. We saw it twice in July and twice in August. And actually, it was part of a group of whales that was in the area that summer feeding. This area is actually kind of an unusual and new area to see whales in the summer, so we really need to find the best way to keep them safe. So now Laura is going to tell us about how we use our data to protect whales.
So thanks, Orla. As Orla said, I'm going to talk about conservation. So to do this, we're going to look at the data from one of our September flights and see how we put that data to work for conservation. The aerial team contributes to conservation through two avenues, the first being close to real-time reporting, and the second through the statistics and the modeling that we do with our data. Today, I'm going to focus on just the first part, and we'll talk about the modeling part on another occasion. But for now, I'm going to start on double checking all that data from the September flight. So right now we're looking at the track lines. The first sighting that we circled was a right whale. We got back on track and kept going along and had another right whale. Orla, the photo showed that to be the same right whale as the first one when you were going through matching them, right?
Yeah, this was actually an adult male, and we saw it twice because it was actually swimming really fast west, so we ran into him on two different track lines.
Cool. And that's some of the, that shows you the power of some of our photo identification data, being able to tell which animals we're seeing on repeat occasions, even within a survey. The next sighting that we had was of a humpback and a right whale in the same broad area. And then we continued on and we ended with 4 right whales before we finished our survey in Plymouth. So now we can take the right whale locations from this flight and put them into the NOAA sighting advisory system. And that way NOAA can get to work on issuing some DMAs, or dynamic management areas. DMAs are temporary protection zones that are triggered when 3 or more right whales are sighted within 2 to 3 miles of each other, and they're outside of any other ship protections. Within a DMA, mariners are encouraged to avoid these areas or reduce their speeds to 10 knots or less. As Orla pointed out earlier, sometimes whales show up in unexpected areas. We need to issue protections for these instances to protect these whales when we don't have other things in place. Now, of course, DMAs can only occur in areas where someone finds the whale. So if there's a group of 3 whales somewhere that no one sees, then there's no DMA to be issued. So remember, if you see a right whale, keep your distance, but make sure to report it to the NOAA hotline. This is the end of our video today, so we hope you guys learned something new and tune back in.
Bye.
Bye.